Looking for a college where you can learn by doing? The University of Northwestern Ohio puts the wrench in your hand and your future in motion.
I would recommend UNOH to anybody who wants to excel in this industry.
With industry connections, cutting-edge equipment, and programs in automotive, diesel, high performance, robotics, and more, this is education that works.
You will come to this school and you will leave 10 times what you were when you came here.
Apply now at unoh.edu.
Happy Daytona Day, everybody. We join you live here in the UNOH College Cup Series from the virtual Daytona Beach, Daytona, Florida here. And it is race number 4 in season 14 of the UNOH College Cup Series here on Green Flag TV. As the season settles in, this iconic venue is going to offer a lot of potential turning points for a lot of drivers here tonight, and we'll see who can take advantage of the opportunity. Thank you all for joining the Daytona 250 presented by the NAPA Longland Corporation. I'm your host tonight, Brad Daniels. Alongside me is Ron Mods, and behind the scenes, it is Howie Burrows. First of all, Ron, how are we feeling tonight after seeing a lot of, I feel like, Daytona in the past week, virtually and in real life?
Well, I think some of us are getting to the point where we may start developing tolerances to Daytona off the back of course, the festivities surrounding the 500 and all the stuff going on in the other road racing side of things, so the Daytona 24, both in the sim and in real life. Some of us are getting a little bit Daytona'd out, but I'm looking forward to this race. I think it's going to be a wild one for all of us, both the drivers out there on the racetrack and us in the broadcast. Both I know Howie has worked like 50,000 Daytona broadcasts over the past couple of days, so may God have mercy to Howie in the production truck, but looking forward to it. I think we're going to have a fun day here in the booth.
This is the 7th time the UNOH College Cup Series has made their way to Daytona, and we'll take a look at the schedule now to see how this season will all unfold. Race number 3 here tonight. Here's the 4th race overall, but 3rd points paying race. You see it's 100 laps here tonight, so 250 miles, and then after this we kick it into a little bit of overdrive here with some I think, mile and a half tracks up to 2 milers that a lot of drivers might prefer to see compared to these first set of 3 races that really have shaken up the standings nonetheless. And Ron, when you look down this list of all these different tracks coming up in the schedule here for season 14, what pops out to you?
Well, I think it's going to be quite cool to see the cars run at Auto Club to kick off the month of March in a couple of weeks' time. That's a track that we only got to see be used by the Next Gen cars. I think we only just got to see it used once or twice. Yeah, twice. It was 2022 and 2023 before that track was savagely taken away from us. That's going to be quite cool to see, to get the month of March up and rolling. And then heading off to Mexico City, that's going to be quite cool as well. I like that track. I liked it ever since I first got a taste of driving around it in F1 2015. That dates me immediately. But that track is really, really fun. I'm looking forward to seeing the other one road course edition that we have for the rest of this season. So, to give you 2 answers there, I'd say Auto Club and Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez.
You brought up pretty much the newest track here to the College Cup Series and the most weathered track. Auto Club, we've been there 10 times, but we've never made our way anywhere really outside of the United States. We did go to Canada once, but this is the first time we're going south of the border here in the UNOH College Cup Series. But before we get too far ahead into the thick of things, we'd like to thank those who make this all possible, starting out with our season-long sponsor, UNOH. Looking to land a career in racing? Begin your education at the university that started it all. UNOH works with some of the nation's premier race teams and gives students the hands-on experience needed to launch their career. Turn your passion into a career at www.unoh.edu. Again, that is www.unoh.edu. And tonight's also race sponsor, the NAPA Longland Corporation. For your car, truck, SUV, and heavy-duty needs, visit NAPA and get the NAPA know-how. And obviously, if anybody out there wants to get into some of the action here in the CIL, depending on the College Cup Series, the Sports Car Series, or the Formula College Series as well, feel free to join this and take a look at the CIL website, the Collegiate iRacing League website today. And everything being considered here, we haven't talked about points much because obviously there's only been 2 races, so it's not really taken seriously. And now we're at race 3. And I think after tonight, we'll be able to really see those drivers who might be able to put a good march going through season 14 here. But right now, we talked about Auburn having a great start to the season and almost a pitch-perfect season so far for the university. But Reese Bayham currently sits on top of the standings in that 334 machine. And, you know, right now, the standings are going to get shaken up after Daytona, Ron. But all that being said and done, Tyler Schoes and Aaron Brown, Ronan Soares, and Alex Ortega make up your top 5.
Yeah, so it's going to be fascinating to see how the championship points continue to evolve leaving this race. This is one that can make or break a season considering how short it is. So if a driver can come out of this race here at Daytona smelling like a bed of roses, they could be golden. Even though there's only 2 races in our rearview mirror and a heck of a lot for these racers to try and circumnavigate coming up, this is going to be a true test of these drivers' skill and their patience.
Well, you know, we get to the starting grid here, and we did say it was a historic start for Auburn University, and look at that, all 4 Auburn machines making it into the top 5. Those drivers definitely took some practice to get that solo qualifying done. You can see Reese Bayham, your current points standings leader in that 334, takes the first overall spot, and Logan Smith gets that the first row as well in that 34 from Auburn. It's Ryan Smith in the 82 in 3rd, and then Edward Sanchez breaks up Auburn's party in the 26 from Baruch. Landon Velicky, that 4th Auburn machine here tonight, starts in 5th, and then Austin DeLong ends up in row 3 in that 222 from Penn College of Technology. In row 4, it's Jake Cummings from Converse, Tyler Skozen from UNOH, and in row 5, it's Ryan Arnold from Bryan College and Brendan Lyman from the Oklahoma Panhandle State University.
Yeah, then looking outside of your top 10, it's Andrew McGill starting this race in 11th, another one of that very much so venerable Auburn University stable. Alongside him in P12 will be Kobe Goldschmidt from Barton College in the 04 machine starting this race in 12th. Looking right behind in lucky spot P13 here, it'll be Ronan Soares from Santa Monica College alongside Alex Jones starting this race in P14 from the Rose Hillman Institute of Technology. It's Cade Corbin from the University of Alabama in Huntsville starting in 15th place next to Thomas Coonan. In 16th, Miguel Carrera will start in P17 from the University of Houston downtown. Ignore that voice crack. We're going to pretend that that didn't happen. Brian Verdua will start this race in P18 from Embry-Riddle in the 248 machine. And rounding out our top 20 before I consult some medical attention for that tragic voice crack, it'll be Matt Gaggan alongside Ethan Head.
And in row 11, it's Madison Ulrich from Otterbein University. Aaron Ramon lines up to her outside from Texas A&M International University. James Bowman from the University of Kentucky starts in 23rd. Lee Winters from Vincennes starts in 24th. In the 25th position, it's Andrew Voigt from the Penn State University. The Nittany Lion machine lining to the inside of Roger Primo from Paul Smith College. Nate Smith from Mississippi State lines up in 27th. Jamie Palencia, new face obviously to the UNOH College Cup Series in that 010. And then Anthony Savignano from Kansas State University starts in 29th, and Cutter Copini from Paul Smith College rounds out your top 30 here tonight.
And that's Aaron Cyrus starting this race in P31 from the University of Alabama in Huntsville. It's Josh Camphor starting this race in 32nd from Kansas State University. Jack Wilson will start in 33rd. He's from the University of North Georgia. With the Minnesota State University driver of Caleb Larson alongside in 34th. Rounding out your field will be Wesley Shaw in 35th from Texas A&M, with Robbie Hotchkiss from New England College rounding out your 36 driver, set to grab the green flag in a couple of moments time here for round number 3 of this Collegiate iRacing League season. Lots of collegiate iRacing action to look forward to here on Green Flag TV, including the action on February 26th when the collegiate iRacing drivers take to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the collegiate iRacing Indy 500. You'll be able to catch all the action here on Green Flag TV. Gives you a good reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of it. But Brad, this is going to be a really, really fun race. You know, you think about Daytona, you think of the chaos it may bring, and based off what happened in real life about 24 hours ago, I have a feeling the final few laps of this race may get quite feisty.
Yeah, historically, I mean, no matter the series, no matter any really, expertise in these next gen, it gets pretty climactic here at the very end. The last lap is always something to behold. There has been races here in the College Cup Series where, that has gone green up until the end, and only 4 or 5 cars battled it out through the end. But I think right now, everyone's kind of just setting themselves up, try to get through at least the first 200 miles, and then let the last 50 miles figure it all out from there. Because, 100 laps around Daytona is a lot. That was still half of the actual Daytona 500 that these collegiate and alumni alike are going to have to deal with here tonight. And you can see it's starting to get a little bit sunset here, so that also is going to bring in maybe a little bit of a challenge going into turn 1, I believe. But, that sunset and then going under the lights is going to be a great spectacle to behold. And all things considered, this is when a lot of drivers can also try and use that restrictor plate prowess in these, try to get their way up to the front, get some good points here tonight, because after tonight, it's a lot of tracks that might be skill dependent and also might be a little helpful if you know how to get your way around a Darlington or an Auto Club.
Yeah, so with some more challenging races up ahead, not saying that this one isn't going to be challenging, but this one is kind of where if you have the good luck on your side, if you get the 4-leaf clover stapled onto your driver's suit, you could be golden here. So if you can get a good run out of this race and see the checkered flag in a very high up position, that can kind of make or break your season. I talked about it a few moments ago before we took a look at the starting grid, but this is going to be a truly pivotal race for some. It can make or break a driver's season. So for those racers who have been dominant thus far, it's all about preserving what they've already been able to grow. And for the racers who are maybe a bit disappointed, this is maybe the race where they can turn their fortunes completely upside down.
We didn't really talk about it too much, but the gap between 30th and 1st was only 0.17 of a second for the grid here tonight, and that shows you how much just precision you have to do on the qualifying lap to try to maximize all the speed you can out of these next gens. And if you're anyone in Auburn right now, you currently have 4 in the top 5 along with pretty much your entire team here in the top 11. All that being said and done, there's also some end of line, so I believe Logan Smith might be one of those end of lines. But all that being said and done, there's a lot of drivers here tonight that are going to try and get their way to the front early and stay out of the mid-pack, and then you're going to see other drivers fall to the back, and both of those strategies have worked here in the past, but with a couple fresh faces, which is typically what you see at the restrictor plate races here in the UNOH College Cup Series, it might throw a wrench into some of these drivers' plans, trying to figure out who's their friends, and oh geez, I thought those two were getting real close of Edward Sanchez and Reese Bayham there in the front row now, but all that being said and done, try to find some friends fast or you might get left in the dust and left out of the draft. As everyone coming through 3 and 4 now. Everyone you can see also catching up to the tail end of this field. 38 entrants here tonight, but 37 on the track as it stands, and only one of them is going to be standing on top of that top step of the podium here for the Daytona 250 presented by the NAPA Longland Corporation. That pace car is going to take its sweet old time going down pit road entry now. Reese Bayham, Edward Sanchez leads the field to the green, and we are down and away down in Daytona. Coming across the stripe for the first green flag lap. It is Reese Bayham able to keep it in front of his Auburn teammates, but you can see Ryan Smith jumping out there to that outside now. He's going to have to defend in this early part of this Daytona 250 as that outside line has some momentum after the opening restart, but Landon Velicky and now Reese Bayham leading the two lines. Auburn currently at the front, but Ryan Smith gets him right out of the way and is going to lead that outside line to the lead. That's Landon Velicky, I believe, actually.
Yeah, Velicky jumping into that top spot, but the momentum is always going to be the name of the game here, and you can see Jake Cummings taking that momentum down to the bottom, jumping in front of Reese Bauman. He's now going to try and jump into the race lead, and jump into the race lead he will be able to do side by side as they head their way off into the tri-oval. Just to quickly touch on this, some storylines developing before we even grabbed the green flag because of some penalty violations in the past. We did see some drivers pick up end-of-line penalties. Those drivers Logan Smith, Ronan Suarez, Cade Corbin, Brian Ferdua, along with Carter Capini, James Bowman as well, picking up some end-of-line penalties. So that was far from just one or two drivers running into some difficulties. It was a decent chunk of the field having penalties from the previous rounds of the season, paying for them early here at Daytona.
You can see in that little shot on the backstretch area, pretty much 3/4 of the field got to that bottom line as much as they could, but one of the drivers who did not, currently in that 04, Colby Goldschmidt, that 04 currently from Barton College, his first time getting the reins here in the UNOH, called, oh, around goes the 13, along with a lot others in the mid-pack.
Oh, the classic Daytona controversy strikes here. Drama heading out of the tri-oval, heading into 1 and 2. Bit of a choke point for these racers whenever they crane their way out of the banking. So we're going to have to take a look at a replay to see what caused all that. I think it was just opening race jitters kind of catching up to these racers.
They were going 4 wide through the tri-oval. That is nowhere close to being able to work. And you can see that Bryan College, Ryan Arnold machine in the 13 hard into the outside wall, with a lot of others having to take some real hard left-hand turns down to the apron to try to avoid the... It looks like the 45 might be the cause of everything there. Just trying to... It just looked like a stack up there. And obviously, you don't want to go 4 wide. Talladega might be the place to do it, but Daytona, not even the best of drivers can make 4 wide work confidently.
Yeah, I won't even want to go 4 wide around here in a go-kart. Look at that. Side by side racing. Not going to work out. Alex Jones in the other Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology number 45 car running into those troubles early. He was kind of the other car that caused the pinch off in the first place, but just 4 wide racing heading off through that heading off through the tri-oval. I can't even scroll down to one part of the racetrack. I think the only area that you could make it work was down the backstretch, and even then you've still got a turn at the end of it, so that's not going to work out too well. Yeah, 4 wide racing off through the tri-oval. You're kind of asking for trouble, and unfortunate to see the racers collected and all of that. 4 wide, about 4 laps in, never going to fly.
All that being said and done, you know, I don't like to talk about biggest movers at this early in the race, but I'm just looking at some of the stats right now. Aaron Brown started in 37th and is up to 11th in the matter of 4 green flag laps, so that's 16 from Eastern Shore Community College is on the move, to say the least. Josh Camphor right behind him. You can see that 141 from Kansas State. And Robbie Hotchkiss, Nate Smith, Jack Wilson, all up double digits. Now, obviously, some drivers are electing to lose those positions, fall to the back of the pack, but nonetheless, you can see those 5 drivers on the move as we get to lap 6 under caution here, and obviously nobody going down pit road because really, you know, when you think about it, Ron, if you're not acclimated here to Daytona, you know, tires aren't that big of a problem compared to a lot of other tracks.
Oh yeah, even with the choppiness that the Daytona tri-oval surface has grown over the past couple of years, ever since it was last repaved back in the start of the 2010s, still pretty tricky to try and manage this race. Not because of the tires, it's because of the fuel and the fuel alone. Saw a driver actually hop the berm and overshoot their pit stall there. Not sure who that was. That's going to cause them to lose out on a boatload of time. But yeah, the tires not going to be too much of a worry. Granted, if your tires are worn down to the canvas somehow and you blow a tire heading off through here, that's not going to fly either, just like a Dale Earnhardt losing out in the Daytona 500 to Derek Cope way back in 1990.
Great poll there from the archives, and you can see up at the top of your screen the top 16 drivers currently in the standings stayed out. You can also tell that they only got 6-lap tire advantage. It's not too much, obviously, of a tire advantage. We're more concerned about fuel here, and some of those strategies might be already trying to shake its way up here in Daytona. 6 laps is a lot here when you're especially going 250 miles, and a lot of these drivers you could also see, including Alex Smith, Roger Primo up there, both receiving EOLs as part of that incident that brought out our first yellow here tonight. And at the helm, it's still Landon Velicky, but you also have Edward Sanchez, Jake Cummings, who have made their way up to the front. Reese Bayham, after starting on pole, falls back to 4th place, and rounding out your top 5, Ryan Smith. Not too much to look at here in the top 10, only given they only had some 4 green flag laps, but still, nonetheless, some great action, some 2-wide action, really through the front half of the pack. And Ron, when it comes to all of it said and done, it seems like a lot of drivers are also trying to push to get into that inside line on these restarts, and then maybe jump out to that outside line once it gets its momentum going.
Yeah, and this is a momentum game. You just got to figure out where the momentum is and figure out how best to ride it. It's like surfing in an odd sense. You got to know where those waves are coming at you. You got to know where to ride them, when to hop on, when to hop off. I say this as somebody who's never surfed in his life, but I think the point still remains. You got to figure out when exactly to time everything out. The timing is everything. I think another good comparison I can give to stock market. You got to buy in low and then sell high.
Beautiful analogy, to say the least. Here is everyone getting back to 2-wide racing here, getting double file for the restart. And all of it being said and done, Auburn's still at the front, and actually the Auburn team's going to be split up between the rows a little bit here. You can see Landon Velicky is going to be starting on that inside row with Reese Bayham, second row back on the outside. Ryan Smith is going to be that third car in line, the inside row. But all that being said and done, Edward Sanchez and Jake Cummings both were daring on their way to push towards the front, and we'll see if those two drivers can do anything about it. That panhandle machine of Brendan Lyman now lining up in row 3, and then running you through the rest of the top 10. It's the UNOH driver of Tyler Skozen, Austin DeLong from Penn College of Technology, Colby Goldschmidt in that 04, and then it's Logan Smith in the 34, rounding out your top 10, with a lot of other fresh faces jumping through the field, trying to figure out where they want to be here for this restart. All that being said and done, Thomas Kuhnen, the first driver who went down pit road there, so when you look for maybe an alternative strategy, you got to find your way back to that Missouri machine in 17th. Pace cars' lights are out as they come through turn 4 now. They're going to try and make their way and maybe get a long green flag run going here. The 62 of Landon Velicky, Edward Sanchez on that front row, leading the field here to the Geico restart zone. And green flag down and away here in Daytona.
Yeah, looking at that bottom lane, the massive racers wanted right at the tail end, the rooster tail of this field. That's not going to help out the top side too much, but the bottom side not really the beneficiary either. You can see massive wedge drawn between those racers. Look at the gap between this this front group of about 7 cars. You have to go back quite a few car lengths to find anybody on the bottom.
The action up here is pushing towards the front. Edward Sanchez giving a heck of a push to the back of Landon Velicky. You can see that outside line is now going as they jump to the inside, 3 cars deep. Brendan Lyman in the 78 able to jump down in front of Jake Cummings. Now all of them securely holding that inside. They're still 3 wide coming out of turn 4. They're real close coming through the tri-oval, but they make it work. Back to 2 wide racing further back in the field there. It looked like Thomas Kuhnen and I believe Andrew Voigt or Robbie Hotchkiss maybe back there were getting a little tangled through the tri-oval, but all being said and done, that 26 is right on the back bumper of the 62, coming through 1 and 2, and everyone else going to be able to drag the brake, maybe save some fuel here, which is on the top of the mind of all these drivers at this point. You know, if you want to try and have a great strategy, try to, have a shorter pit stop towards the end of this race, get that alternative strategy going and get some great positioning here. this could be the start of it. Just sitting third in line further on back, you know, that can save you a lot of fuel compared to like Landon Veliky or Edward Sanchez.
And as much as Daytona fuel saving brings about as much excitement to people's heads as the phrase gluten-free cracker, it is still something that you have to play here at Daytona. That's just, don't hate the play or hate the game. I think it's probably the best way that I can sum it up. And you can say that both the real life fuel saving and the sim racing fuel saving. If you can cut out the pit stops, cut out as much time down pit lane as you can, you will be setting yourself up fantastically. We're getting some more in-depth statistics from our producer Howie, kind of talking about how you could probably run up to about 41-ish laps in the draft. Now, that still entails that these racers will have to come down pit lane during this race more than once. However, with the yellows and everything that you can do, there's a lot of fuel saving that you can play here. It's not just a matter of smashing the gas pedal and running as quickly as you can. If we have yellows, you can do some clutching and coasting, shut that engine off whenever you got the opportunity. And even in the draft, you're not the one being the hole punch. You're getting the slipstream. You can do a heck of a lot of fuel saving. 6 miles a gallon, that's probably better fuel mileage you can get out of a Hummer.
When it comes to Daytona, 250 miles goes by in a flash, but also does the fuel. So a lot of these drivers gonna have to try and mentor their way around this track. And right now, that 62 and a new livery for Auburn, that Landon Veliky leading the field. You can see absolutely nobody on that outside line until you get to that. Looks like a second pack establishing there, and that second line might be hindering their speed a little bit. Obviously, you don't want to worry about having to slow down and lose the draft as a second line develops, and if you get a second behind the car in front, that could be the end of that fast feeling, getting any sort of contention here for the win here tonight. And I think if you look further on back here, yeah, looking back now, it is that Eastern Shore machine of Aaron Brown who's now at the front of the second pack. It is a fully established second pack with a second line on that outside, slowing them down. But he's getting a heck of a push right now from Roger Primo from Paul Smith's College, just trying to get any sort of time back to this front pack. As everyone looking behind here with Madison Ulrich, single file in this front pack.
Yeah, and look at the graphics on screen. On and off the gas pedal, off more often than on, still keeping the speed rolling upwards of 192 miles an hour, even off the throttle, keeping that speed going. That shows you how strong the drafting and the slipstream is here at Daytona. So we've now officially settled into the groove with the sun dipping closer and closer to the edge of that horizon. Everybody doing a little bit of fuel saving. Nobody really able to make a run work. To make a run work here at Daytona, you've got to have a lot of people deciding to break away. It's pretty much just have to be a bottom lane civil war to break out, to get a top side up and rolling. Now, I'm not saying that can't happen, but I am saying that at this point of the race, you'd rather have a longer friends list than an enemies list.
Absolutely. Oh, big move to the outside for Thomas Coonan in that Missouri Tiger machine. He was on the outside line trying to make it work with Jamie Palencia, but, it all didn't seem to work when they tried to establish that outside line. So I think everyone's going to try and keep it concise and, in this inside line, try to keep in line and not have to worry about, any sort of damage or risk taken. As you can see, riding on board here with Edward Sanchez from Baruch. You can also see that front panel, how much he, as the second car in line, is having to, he's about not getting to the rev limiter, but still pushing that car as much as he can up to the 62, right up to his bumper, out of the corners and on these front stretch and back stretch areas. Obviously, you don't want a bad push in the corners because that can upset this next gen real bad. And you don't really want to, you might want to, practice it a little bit now, but that's also when practice was for. You don't want to try and, figure out where to push and where not at this point, when actually something's going on in the track here. So all that being said there and done, it looks like that 26 is going to get used to the back of the 62.
Yeah, now one thing to consider about the draft that you touched on a few moments ago there, Brad, is the temperatures. Make sure the temperatures don't get too hot. The last time I did a broadcast here at Daytona was back on Friday night. It was a broadcast that Howie and I were doing, albeit it wasn't with the Next Gens. It was with the O'Reilly's cars. We were about 15 laps into that when a driver blew their motor up, which had to have been the most unfortunate way to that was a season opening race as well. So the fact they blew up their motor that quickly shows that it can happen even in the sim. People think that you would be out of your mind to suggest such a thing, but you can blow up your motor quite quickly. And I'll say in confidence that if you're getting pushed, if you're the one getting a bump draft from behind and then your engine blows up, there's no more hopeless feeling to have. I would have more faith in the gods if the cables on the ski lift that I was on got cut.
Looking back here now, this is our second group again. Looking, and now we got a fresh face at the front, that Kansas State machine of Anthony Savignano in that 99, trying to get everyone single file. They actually figured it out now and got single file, but this is all still about 2.5 seconds back from that main pack. Everyone getting back together up at that front pack. I think this Kansas State tango of that 1-2 in line there are going to try and do whatever they can with Josh Camphor's bumper in the 99, just trying to get all the way back, or at least stay from getting lapped, which I know, obviously being in this big of a group, it's not really a threat at any moment. But once you lose touch with the draft, like some of the other drivers further on back here, it can get a little dangerous. Whoa!
Well, that civil war that I thought was going to happen has now happened.
And it's that Penn State Nittany Lion of Andrew Voigt on the outside line with Tyler Skozen. We cut away for one lap, and all of a sudden, everyone, like you said, is getting in a little bit of a civil war, trying to push their way to the front. That 009 there, trying to see what he could do on the outside line. It is established enough with a couple cars there of Thomas Coonan behind, along with, it looks like, the 222 of Austin DeLong, or that actually might be also Madison Ulrich, it looks like, on that outside line as they come to turn 4. All that being said and done, this is going to hinder them a little bit here. Might get a little potential for that little pack further on back to gain some time, because side drafting is definitely major here. This group does have more cars than the group behind, but when you're battling too wide like this can lose a good bit of lap time for those leaders, some larger checkups for those on the inside line, and overall might open the door to get everyone back up to this main pack.
Yeah, so in this side-by-side scrapping, all these racers are doing is just slowing each other down. They're pretty much dragging anchors through asphalt at the moment. It's only a matter of time before those racers who initially did lose touch, and now if they can work together, they'll be good. If they're side-by-side, you can forget about it, but if they can work together, we could see that gap just disappear in the blink of an eye as we get farther along here. Now pushing to the start of lap 20, already a fifth of the way through this race. Edward Sanchez trying to hold on to that gap, keep the momentum rolling on the bottom, and withstand any sort of pressure that top side was trying to bring. But the top side gonna stay back with it as they head their way down the backstretch. Look at the run as they head their way through there. Valecki and the number 62 car gonna jump into the top spot. Now, will he place gap and go to the bottom? Yes, he will.
And he did lose the lead for a little bit there, but luckily for the 62, able to use that outside to get a great push down the backstretch. You can see, another thing as a driver, you might be better at receiving the pushes or pushing the car in front. And that's also another thing we touched on earlier. If you have friends that can be a great pusher, it might be to your benefit to, have that somebody around you that you can just lock onto and go if you're able to keep that car under you. So, all that being said and done now, that outside line still has the momentum, still going to keep it going. You can see 6 cars on that outside line trying to make it work, helmed by Andrew Voigt from Penn State. The UNOH car of Tyler Skozen also to the back bumper of the 09. But these 3 on the bottom lane, really, also Brendan Lyman has done a great job of pushing Edward Sanchez right up to that back bumper of Landon Velicki. Those 3 at times have seemed like a sandwich and just pushed each other all the way through the front and back stretch. But here comes that outside line, has a good bit of momentum through the tri-oval.
Yeah, so the top side looking to stay alive at the moment. Not a lot of representation there, although we have seen smaller packs be able to persuade some people in the other way. Can't say that they're getting the momentum rolling at all, though, because you can see pretty much the only time where they're able to pull out is just heading down the backstretch, and even then, looks like the gap not really working this time around. The bottom side really dominant at the moment. You can just see the numbers of cars that they got there. One thing that I will say is not helping at the bottom is we're seeing drivers blink in and out. I'm not sure if it's a 35. No, it is. It's a 222 there. It is a 222. I apologize for that. That's Austin DeLong. Having a blinking out car in the midst of a pack at Daytona is such an unnerving experience for any of the racers around them.
Especially when you're going 2 or 3 wide, you know, you get the call that you're 3 wide, and then all of a sudden you're 2 wide, and you're just like, where'd the car in the middle go? That could, you know, you're not, they might not even see you also at the same time since they blinked out. Everyone might be, you know, in a different spot from where they blinked out from. So you can see now 3 defined packs, really 2, with the exception of just 3 cars further on back there. And everyone's still trying to chase down that 62 of Landon Veliky. Currently has led a good bit of this race, and Auburn nonetheless has led all of this race so far, the first 23 laps. And all thanks right now to Edward Sanchez, who's also been pushing this 62 a good bit, along with Andrew Voigt, still on that outside line, still determined to get to the front with Tyler Skozen. These two lines aren't too, you know, side drafting. They're not too close to each other to really get that side draft effect terribly, but at the same time, you're not even a quarter way through the race, and I think, you know, a lot of these drivers might not be trying to do so, just trying to maybe get their place in line. And the further up you are, the least percentage of being involved in a big wreck, as you could say. I lost my words there for a moment, but nonetheless, everyone's still trying to push on through here, still trying to think about maybe having to think about a green flag pit stop, but we are about halfway through this green flag stop for those drivers who did not come in, since the caution helped with their fuel mileage a little bit there.
Yeah, so it's not going to be too long until we have to consider what these races will do strategically, especially a quarter of the way through this race, maybe halfway through the stint. Haven't seen a yellow breakdown after that first one, with the field broken up a little bit. This top side not really able to gain strength. They haven't completely faded away. It's they're just there for the most part. They're just wandering around, not really able to make anything work at the moment. But I will say, one group of drivers that kind of happy about that top side staying around is that pack right in tow headed by Anthony Salviano. He's going to be the one trying to bring this fight back to the racers behind him, which I think could very easily happen. You know, a little bit of side-by-side racing, maybe a small check-up here and there, that could turn this pack that we've got right now of only 18 cars into one that includes a heck of a lot more than that. So as we continue to see these drivers battling out there on the racetrack, hearing that my colleague is dealing with some slight technical issues, so we'll continue on and carry the action as if nothing is going on, as is the case in usual show business. The show must go on, as they say. So let's talk about this fighting up at the front, which is starting to intensify. Right as I said that these racers should maybe take it easy, and right as I said these racers were taking it easy, as it turns out, they're not anymore. Veliky swapped sides like it was flipping burgers, heading all through 3 and 4, and now look at Lyman. He's the one holding on to that race lead on the top side, currently holding on to second overall in this field. Now you got to see whether that top side's got to keep the momentum rolling. Down the straightaways doesn't really count. They got the higher run, they got the longer run through the turns, so they're going to keep the momentum rolling on the straight parts. But if they can get it going through the turns and either not lose out on a lot of time or even keep tow, they'll be golden. And look at that, Lyman able to keep Veliky and the leaders on that bottom side honest. This is rather fascinating what we're seeing right now. You look at Andrew Voigt right in tow. The 09 car, your top running racer of the alums. He's going to be slipped back in tow. Now the one punching the hole in the air. Oh boy, now the one punching the hole in the air on the top side. Try saying that 5 times fast. Lyman now holding on to the race lead over Valecki, right in tow in P2 in the number 62 car right now. Sanchez right in tow as well. And in that small little bit of side-by-side racing, the gap between Colby Goldschmidt holding on to P18 right now and Anthony Salviano in that number 99 machine slotted in 19th. We were talking about how we were starting to get a little bit close, but had plateaued, if we are being completely honest. It's now gone down for the first time to about 2.2 seconds. Now, that's not major, but that's just enough. It's what I like to call 5 feet of hope. Whenever you're behind the wheel and dealing with a little bit of drama, a situation that you wouldn't want to be involved in yourself, you always look to try and get those small little wins, or even like just trying to do like a project of some kind, work project, school project, no matter what the deal was. I remember when I was in high school, I would always set little benchmarks for myself to either go up and grab myself a new beverage, grab myself some kind of snack, whatever the deal was. They're going to have little benchmarks like that, and closing up the gap to that margin now of about 1.5 seconds. That's enough. We're starting to see these races get a little bit dicier in the mid-pack of this top pack. Bit of inception going on there, but I think it's really nice. Look down Mass and Ulrich in the number 48 car that we saw a little bit wiggly. And now, for the first time in quite some time, you can see that pack farther behind starting to bring these racers in. So this is going to be fascinating. Now, it's imperative, so vital, that these competitors can remain in tow, keep themselves honest, and not go side by side. If they go side by side, they will be shooting themselves in their feet. Don't do that. That is the that's the worst thing that they can do for themselves. Look at that gap now, 9/10 of a second. They're going to be catching the draft here soon, and when they catch the draft, it is going to make that gap disappear in the blink of an eye. But as we continue to see this racing going on right now, I think we're going to, yep, there we go, 0.3 of a second right away. That is absolutely fantastic. Perfect time to bring in my co-commentator, Brad. You're back.
I am back. Technology is a wonderful thing when it wants to work. But all that being said and done, it looks like I've missed a heck of a lot. Brendan Lyman has gotten to the front here, and, you know, from Daytona standards at times, a lot can happen in the sense of drivers being at least moving around. You can, and it's, you know, it seems like one big pack now is you can see all these positions being gained by a bunch of these drivers. Robbie Hotchkiss from New England College in that 6, currently that biggest winner, up 22 positions right now. You can see he's currently sitting in 14th, and then Jack Wilson, Andrew Voigt, who's been battling for the lead here, and then Aaron Brown and Jamie Palencia has been moving their way through the field here tonight. All that being said, getting to almost a third of a way through the 250 miles here tonight. And this little pack at the front has not really changed up too much. Lyman has gotten front of the 62 and 26, but that's all changed since the green flag has dropped on lap 7. So all that being said and done, that second pack joining up on this group might give a little potential to that outside line to work again, but you can see just everyone spread out right now, maybe trying to avoid getting into each other, and actually some 3-wide action further on back there. I believe that's with some lap cars, and that's just another difficulty here at Daytona. But all that being said and done, we now come across the stripe for lap 33 in the race tonight for the Daytona 250, presented by NAPA Longland. We're going to take a moment here and let the listeners all hear the roar of these next-gen cars go around Daytona as we turn it up here in the UNOH College Cup Series.
Looking for a college where you can learn by doing? The University of Northwestern Ohio puts the wrench in your hand and your future in motion.
I would recommend UNOH to anybody who wants to excel in this industry.
With industry connections, cutting-edge equipment, and programs in automotive, diesel, high performance, robotics, and more, this is education that works.
You will come to this school and you will leave 10 times what you were when you came here.
Apply now at unoh.edu.
Welcome back here to the Daytona 250 as we just crossed 35 laps, currently on lap 36 here of the 250 miles here in Daytona Beach. You can see the sun is setting and all the drivers trying to make it to the end of the race here, single file through the field. Brendan Lyman and that panhandle machine still holding it out in the lead. But while that is all going on here, we like to shout out those who make this all possible yet again. It is UNOH, the season-long sponsor. Are you looking to land a career in racing? Oh, a hard hit for Ethan Head, actually. Sorry, further on back, I see someone headlong into the wall as there's a caution out. We'll come back to everything I was about to say there. I turned my head here and saw that Tennessee machine headlong into the wall in turns 3 and 4.
Yeah, I think the last time I saw something very similar to that, it was followed up by a deep drive into left field by Castellanos. Any baseball fans who get that reference there, you'll understand where I'm catching my drift from. There's the moment for Ethan Head. Look at that, head on into the outside wall. That was a vicious impact for those two, and some more drivers just getting collected in the scraps.
James Bowman collected. It looks like Roger Primo. Oh, very delayed hit there. Well, I think that might be Ronan Suarez. I couldn't really tell from that angle, but still, you can see going through 3 and 4 there. Oh, yeah, hard hit into the outside wall for the 8. James Bowman, not that significant of damage coming through 3 and 4. Then you can see also Reese Bayham further on back here, I believe, or that might be Andrew McGill, but hard into the backside. I think that's Ronan Suarez in the Santa Monica machine, and Aaron Brown as well. And it looks like Ethan Head, that Volunteers machine, beat ball for that 8. It'd just be a little insult to injury if he also had a black flag. But the 8 getting a meatball there. And it looks like I couldn't get the other one there. So everyone's coming down pit road there. You can see a busy pit road after that long green flag run.
It's a major hit, so understandable why the meatball flags are coming out, but pit stops now, kind of disrupting what was the longest green flag run of the night now. For these racers coming down pit lane right now, not going to be a lock for them to make it to the end, but the fuel window will become a bit easier for them if we do see a little bit more drama break out between now and the end.
That being said and done, you could see the 04 and the 8 getting some critical damage there. And unfortunately for Colby Goldschmidt from Barton College, that's going to be the end of his night for his first ever race here in the UNOH College Cup Series, along with the longtime runner of Ethan Head. But back to what I was saying there before that all unfolded here. There's some people we'd like to thank here for putting on this race here tonight, and that is UNOH, the season-long sponsor yet again. Are you looking to land a career in racing? Begin your education at the university that started it all. UNOH, with some of the nation's premier race teams and give students the hands-on experience needed to launch their careers. Turn your passion into a career at unoh.com or .edu. That is www.unoh.edu. Tyler Skozen at 28, one of the drivers from UNOH. And then tonight's race sponsor, NAPA Longland Corporation, for your car, truck, SUV, and heavy-duty needs. Visit NAPA and get the NAPA know-how. And Ron touched on it earlier here tonight, but the CIL Indy 500 is almost upon us on February 26th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. One more driver will look to add their name to the long list of drivers who have been able to kiss the virtual bricks at the historic Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Not only can everyone watch this race live on Green Flag TV, but any college student or alumni can enter this race. If you want to find out how you can enter this event and win a share of the $100 prize pot, scan the QR code on your screen. Or, more importantly here, you can also visit Collegiate iRacingLeague.com for more. That, again, is Collegiate iRacingLeague.com. All that being said and done, a lot going on here in the CIL realm and along with Green Flag TV, so you will not want to miss any of it. As you can see, the penalties are given out to the 99 currently that started that all, apparently, of Anthony Savignano from Kansas State. You can see also his teammate Josh Camphor is in the pit lanes for a long time there. So those two were helming that second pack, along with the 36, I believe, is also in pit road. Oh, everyone getting some sort of penalty or in pit road. All that being said and done, but at the helm, it's Edward Sanchez and Jake Cummings who are going to take the reins, with Madison Ulrich, Brennan Lyman, Andrew Voigt, Austin DeLong, Tyler Skozen, Cade Corbin, Thomas Coonan, and Reese Bayhem currently in your top 10 right now. And you can see everyone further on back. They're going to try and keep it into one big pack here, Ron.
Yeah, now off the back of the initial start that we had, which kept the field very packed up, which kind of led to the craziness that we had not too long after the initial start, and then the restart that we had last time by, where it was a bit more relaxed and composed compared to when we first grabbed the green flag here tonight. I wonder if we're going to maybe find kind of like a happy medium where the field still stays tight, still stays close, but is a bit more subdued than what we have seen throughout the night. But here we go.
At the mile marker 100 this next time around, Edward Sanchez brings the field to the green flag. You can see Jake Cummings doesn't get that great of a start, getting pushed by that 78 of Brendan Lyman, who has been great at pushing anybody in front of him here tonight in that panhandle machine. And he's going to look to the outside now, try to lead that line. Oh, Jake Cummings comes right back up, and he's going to try and block off the 78's run, if any. Edward Sanchez is still going to try and control both lines going down the backstretch.
Yeah, and heading their way down the super stretch into 3 and 4. You can see these races getting a little bit close, farther in the back, swapping sides and swapping lanes. Jake Cummings now dropping down to the bottom. He's going to be the one punching the hole in the air. Very, very close bumper-to-bumper action right behind them. This is a danger zone, though. The initial start, that's fine and dandy and all, but once you get the momentum rolling, everybody's still a little bit jittery on a restart. This is when the drama tends to strike.
For a lot of these drivers, they want to at least make it halfway in tonight's race. And Austin DeLong, you can see getting a little shifty on the corner there, getting pushed by Cade Corbin in that Alabama Huntsville machine. Trying to see what he can do on that outside line, as Madison Ulrich is about the first car on that inside line able to determine where she wants to go. That Otterbein machine currently still trying to figure it out. But all that being said and done, you can also see at the top of your screen, all of these drivers will need to have at least one more pit stop to top off on fuel and make it to the end of this race. Now, if it stays green, obviously that throws in some variables, but all that being said and done, it is almost a guarantee to think that there will be another caution within this pit cycle for a lot of these drivers. It's hard to go 40 laps here at Daytona, and we even saw everyone's trying to keep it single file, but it gets a little bit crazy sometimes on those little bit of worn tires, and also some, unfortunate happenings there through 3 and 4 as everything gets collected back again. Now, Austin DeLong trying to get that Penn College of Technology machine maybe to the front here on that outside line.
And you mentioned a good point, talking about racers wanting to take it easy and find themselves in a source of tame behavior. But it's all a matter of everybody needs to play ball for that to take place. If there's one driver that pushes the envelope, pushes the limit, everybody else is going to follow in kind. That's the thing with racers. I would not say that they are susceptible to peer pressure in the sense that if somebody told them to jump off the bridge, everybody else would follow in tow. However, if somebody pulls out line and tries to make something work, certain racers are going to feel ambitious and brave and bold enough to try and follow them. For now, though, the opposite is kind of true with some drivers getting abducted by a UFO. I think that's the 222 with some blink ads there, punching a hole in the air on the top side. But pretty much everybody else filing back in line on the bottom, realizing that, hey, at this point, why be up there? It's just not really that much of a winning prospect, at least now, sure, the halfway mark.
And also another thing to note, we've never had a repeat winner here in Daytona in the UNOH College Cup Series, but that's not going to happen tonight as none of the drivers who have won here before are in tonight's race. So we'll have a new winner stepping on the top step of the podium for the Daytona 250, but who is it going to be? It's not even going to be a college that particularly has won here before. The only college in the field that has won here before is Tennessee, with Austin Farr and Ethan Head. Currently, you saw in that last incident, is probably going to diminish those chances real quick of a repeat university win here. So all that being said and done, nobody here has particularly won at Daytona, but there's some other drivers that are trying to, use a lot of their great pace at these restrictor plates, like Edward Sanchez, Jake Cummings up the front. Obviously, they've been around the College Cup Series for a long time, but also have the speed here at Daytona, Talladega, and Echo Park, everything being said and done. But also throughout the field, just a lot of great, fresh faces. Auburn is somebody you can't turn away from, is Andrew McGill and Reese Bayham. You can see those drivers on that inside line, trying to maybe see if they can keep along with this outside line. Austin DeLong is not letting that outside go in that 222, but Landon Velicky, also from Auburn, is helping him out, trying to get past his teammates and then some. You can see also Logan Smith, actually all the Auburn cars in that little snap there, 4 of them on the bottom line, Landon Velicky in the middle on that outside line. Just a lot going on here university-wise, but, this all being said and done, most of the drivers still on the inside line, playing it safe, trying to get through the halfway point.
Yeah, and that's what everybody is just trying to do right now. They want to whittle those laps away, reach another one of those checkpoints. I mentioned it earlier on the broadcast, talking about drivers trying to set little checkpoints, little benchmarks for themselves to say, okay, here we are. Okay, that was a gutsy move. Jumping up to the top side. That was Velicky deciding to jump up high. Have some racers jumping down low, however. So the conga line that we've got right now is continuing to develop, and I will actually correct myself there. I don't believe it was Velicky that we saw jump up to the top side. I think it may have potentially been Jack Wilson in the 925 car, although I will wait for further confirmation in that regard there. Either way you slice it, though, the top side just not really able to get anything up and rolling for now. But again, we are still short of that halfway mark, so this is not a make or break deal for these racers. They still have plenty of time left to go to try and make something happen up there.
Now it's pretty much all falling apart for that outside line, and at least at the front. If you see throughout the field, though, Jack Wilson's now helming it as Austin DeLong pushes it down to the inside line. That North Georgia machine just going to try and make something work now. He's going to get some pushes from the backside there from Andrew Voigt of Penn State. We saw Voigt around the front earlier in the race, but still there's 5 cars clear of that outside line, so they got a little bit of momentum to get up to that front, as really these top 4 have not made any crazy moves. As I believe Landon Velicky threw himself pretty much in that inside line while we were watching that battle. Some lap traffic there, as everyone's going to have to try and make it work 3 wide. This is the best place, obviously, to try and catch said lap traffic, because you don't have to worry about 3 wide in the corners here at Daytona, as some people you can see shifting all around further on back in the field. And if you're a lap car here, obviously you just felt like you were in purgatory when you had nobody around you, and then all of a sudden you have 30 cars just going 10 miles, at least 10 miles an hour faster than you, just jumping right around you, and you have to avoid all of that, as well as it looks like further back in the mid-pack, they're getting a little shifty. They might be trying to make their way up further in this pack as we're coming close to 125 miles.
Again, close to that halfway mark, and some drivers looking to bring the spice of life right as we thought that that top side was well and truly dead. Nope, it is not. It's like a video game villain in an odd sense. Every single time you think that it's dead, it isn't. It comes back to haunt you once more. The top side is back, this time maybe with a vengeance. Will they be able to get something going this time, though, is a real question. Jack Wilson in the 925 car is the one punching the hole in the air, holding on to P5 at the moment, the top running of the alums currently, but we have still got to consider whether anybody in front of him will decide to jump up to the top side first. It's just a matter of whether they can get the numbers. The strength in numbers and the participation is everything in terms of making that top side work. We're now past the halfway mark, or exactly at it for that matter, pardon me, with the lap traffic slowly hoving into view. Right as we were saying that that top side was gaining in numbers, they have now gained a few, and they lose a few.
Well, in this front pack, we have 26 drivers currently taking part in this front. Actually, 27, technically 26 on the lead lap. But right now, Aaron Cyrus in the 98 is the first car lap down. But now he might lose that lucky dog position here to Paul Smith's Carter Copini, as he lost the draft early on and is now going to be swallowed up in this black hole that is the pack, as he's going to try and latch on to the end of this pack and see if he can maybe battle it out to get a free pass back to the lead lap. You can see now this inside line has a pretty dominating hold, as Jack Wilson still trying to make that outside line work. It looks like actually a lot of the drivers further on back there might have lost touch. Got a little bit of gappage there, as somebody is slow on the apron further back coming out of 2. That was, I don't know, Carter Copini actually is meatballed, which we were saying he had to worry about, getting past everyone, try to get onto the tail end of the pack. Might have got some self-inflicted damage, maybe? We'll take a look.
It's already up against the fence, and then things go from bad to worse. That's a huge hit there. Very lucky for the field that he didn't... Very lucky that he didn't just cause a huge stack up there that may have brought out a yellow. It did not, thankfully. But let's take a look at this once more. Not sure whether this was... it looked like contact. Yeah, it was major contact there for sure. For the first angle and the way the cars were positioned, wasn't sure whether the arrow just sucked that car around. But Carter Copini, after picking up a EOL to start this race off, he's now going to be well in the back because of that damage.
You can see that pretty much ruined the entire outside line. They kind of, all disbanded because of what happened in turns 1 here, and now it's just that bottom line again. Everyone's single file for the most part. There's some drivers trying to use the side draft and maybe just get in line where they can find a gap, but that incident caused a lot of drivers to think otherwise, try to maybe keep it safe, and unfortunately for Jack Wilson, he's able to find a home actually on that inside line. So everyone single filing back out here, other than, never mind, they're getting all now 27 cars in that lower line. So everyone's trying to make a snake, trying to use that train and push on through these laps and maybe start thinking into the further stages of this race. You could see maybe, some of these drivers, they don't get it going. It could really screw them up. I think that's Ronan Suarez in the 31 here, and Jamie Palencia here, trying to come through the tri-oval, try to catch back up. I believe the 31 there, if that is Ronan Suarez, might be damaged from that earlier incident. I think he came in pretty hot into that incident before, got some damage, and that could slow down that 31 and potentially make this second pack not, be able to catch up to the front pack. They're actually catching up now, thankfully for everyone else involved. But damaged race cars, another variable you have to think about when you're trying to push somebody. If they're damaged, you do not want to have them really remotely anywhere near you.
Yeah, pushing a damaged race car just is not going to fly. That is a losing effort no matter what you do. I think you need a rocket ship, frankly, to try and overcome some of the damage. These next-gen cars are very aero-sensitive. Very, very aero-sensitive on the plate tracks. A little bit of damage to these race cars, and it's going to be a bit of trouble. Not if you're in the draft. The draft is strong enough whereby that will usually square the difference, but if you're the one punching the hole in the air, you can forget it, because that is, as I said, dragging an anchor through asphalt earlier. that's pretty much what it would be. You'd be losing out on time yourself trying to push that car in front of you. It's just a losing proposition all around. So for the moment, everybody just running all by their lonesome, single file on the bottom, trying to get some good fuel numbers as we push to the start of lap number 56 right now. Jake Cummings is still your leader over Sanchez, over Lyman.
And another thing, to note for these drivers, they might start trying to communicate with each other to try and figure out what to do in the event of a pit stop. But at the same time, you can also use the communication system in iRacing to at least maybe start a second row, try to figure out who's your friends, who's not. But at the same time, all that being said and done, no one's trying to risk anything right now. It seems like everybody staying in that lower line, playing it safe, being conservative, getting to the final stages of this race potentially. As you can see, the onset of the darkness slowly encroaching here. The sun has set here at Daytona Beach, and now the lights are starting to come on around the track and be noticeable as well. As Jake Cummings in that 95 from Converse, somebody who has been faster out his time in the College Cup Series. But interesting enough, though, when you look back at the winners at Daytona along with Talladega, he has not notched his name in any of the seasons he's taken part here in the College Cup Series. Obviously, it's a little crazy to say, but that 95 has been fast, but not at the top step of the podium when it matters. And right now, he's logging a lot of laps, leading laps, I think about the last 10 laps now. And coming across the start finish line, no one's really going to contend with him, as Edward Sanchez is just going to let that 95 let loose, and also potentially maybe lose out on a lap or two of fuel mileage if it comes down to it.
And hitting that fuel number is everything. We saw with the latest yellow flag period that everybody came down pit lane just trying to not make it to the end. You can make it to the end from there. However, you can make the road ahead a lot less complicated. And if you can do that, you will do yourself a whole lot of favors. That's one benefit that drivers in real life have over iRacers is usually in real life, you've got a whole strategy team working behind the scenes to try and figure out, okay, here's when you should come down pit lane, here's the number to try and hit, here's the number that you're hitting. Here, however, unless the drivers have some software or they're part of a major team where they're all scheming and there's some crew chiefs kind of helping these drivers along, you don't have the benefit of knowing exactly what you got to do, when you got to do it, and how well of a job you are doing. These competitors, I wouldn't say just eyeball it. They do know to a certain degree what they have got to get done in a stint in terms of fuel saving, but they don't have nearly the amount of guidance that some competitors would like to have in moments like this.
Having a human spotter is a big help for these drivers as well. You get the automatic basic spotter to, whenever you jump into the cockpit here as we're riding on board with Brendan Lyman, but the human spotter can let you know when runs are coming, along with who's in said line that you might be able to work with before you jump into said line. So all that being said and done, there's a lot of things that as basic, and maybe everyone's trying to stay in the same line here, this might not seem like eventful. There's a lot of variables that a lot of these drivers can be thinking about here in the closing now 100 miles here of the Daytona 250 presented by the NAPA Longland Corporation. And as you can see up at the top of your screen, an important statistic and also strategy call for a lot of these drivers to note: the pit window to finish under also a green-white flag condition starts to come into play this time around. And most likely it'll be around lap 80 that we'll see a lot of these drivers get down pit road if this stays green. But everything also being considered, you get a little antsy when it comes to the end of this race. You can see also some lap traffic coming into the picture here. I believe that is Aaron Ramon, Miguel Carrera going to be swallowed up here, and maybe a smaller pack. Actually, that's further. Yeah, this is further on back as well. Looking back at the 010 of Jamie Palencias, they're actually further away in that damaged car of, it looks like, well, that is Ronan Suarez, not on the lead lap, but still holding on to this little bit of a gap to this second pack. And it's slowly forming. This hasn't really gone away. This gap has stayed here every time it seems like we check back. That 010, though, doing a great job of staying on the bumper and trying to keep this pack in the contention.
And a few moments ago there, Brad, you mentioned a good point talking about the pit stops expected on lap 80 if these racers keep the race green. Now that there is a lot of emphasis that needs to be added in onto that word if these competitors can make it to that point in green flag running, we'll have some green flag pit stops to worry about, which is always quite the tantalizing prospect here at Daytona. Sometimes can end in utter catastrophe though, so it is a tough one to try and manage. This is going to be a very compelling final 40 laps of this race. Everybody running on different sort of play calls. You've got some racers who have been punching the hole in the air. They're going to have to consider what they want to do. You may see some lines being drawn in the sand of who wants to come down pit lane, with who and when they want to come down pit lane. Lots of scheming going on here at the present moment, and we're looking forward to seeing how these drivers and these teams try and tackle the final lap of this race, the only 250-miler of the season. So this is a bit of a crown jewel here in the Collegiate iRacing League Cup Series. As speaking of green flag pit stops, we already have them at the back of the pack.
And here comes the alternative strategy in play. A lot of the drivers just trying to get to the end now, and for sure it's going to be for this group. Aaron Cyrus receiving a black flag on pit road entry there, and all of these drivers on pit road now going to have to get into their little group. And you know, obviously you want to come in with friends and nonetheless some draft support to get around Daytona here, and that's exactly what this group did. It looks like Edward Sanchez, Landon Veliky, Cade Corbin, Thomas Coonan, to say some, Brian Ferretta you can also see there up in this little group along with Landon Veliky. That is really everyone from 19th on back, it looks like, excluding Aaron Ramon, Miguel Carrera, who have now passed that little group for 19th and 20th. So pretty much about 12 cars who came down pit road, but you can see they're also very far apart, and that's going to hurt them terribly, as it's going to be Landon Veliky and Brian Ferretta in that Embry-Riddle machine going to try and helmet, but you can see the pack is just coming around 1 and 2 now, catching up to them very quickly.
Yeah, closing up that gap, lickety split. They're going to appear in these drivers' rearview mirrors like Exocet missiles. I can tell you that with confidence. Cyrus still down in pit lane trying to serve that black flag. You know, we talked about the challenge of those green flag pit stops and what sort of craziness we may see there. Not only do you have to worry about incidents coming onto pit lane, which are very easy to have happen, dropping down off the banking, going through the gears, and having to drop down from terminal velocity onto pit lane speed. Very tricky to do, but along with the risk of incident, you do run the incredible risk of having a black flag, either speeding on entry, speeding on exits. Whatever the deal may be, it could be absolutely catastrophic to a driver's race. So not only do you have to know when and where to come down pit lane, who to come down pit lane with, you also just have to execute when that pit stop comes.
Something that's overlooked by a lot of drivers is proving crucial here in the last now third of the race, as this time we will enter the last 33 laps here, 33 to go here in the Daytona 250. And it's getting interesting as we have some little tandems throughout the track trying to make it work, trying to stay away from this pack, as they're going to keep it low. And the pack is going to have to go up high to get around Cade Corbin, Thomas Coonan on the bottom side there, trying to protect themselves from going a lap down. And it's only inevitable from here, as they're going to get no support on that bottom line. Those lead lap cars going to try and get around as many cars as possible, try and trap as many people a lap down as they can in case of a caution. You can see Madison Ulrich now getting stuck on that outside in the 48 from Otterbein. And potentially that's helping Corbin and Coonan stay up at the front of this pack, as I thought a couple cars were going to go down pit road there further on back, but it looks like it's just now going to be a disconnect for those drivers into a second little pack now, as Jake Cummings still at the front here getting pushed by Brendan Lyman, and now Thomas Coonan from Missouri. And that's going to leave the 48 all alone with Austin DeLong currently on that outside line. Not much support out there. They're going to fall further on back through this lead lap group.
Keeping an eye on these competitors. 33 laps left to go now here in the Daytona 250. It's been a tough one for these competitors to try and nail down, but they have a good shot to do well in this race. They just need to execute, as here we go. Another pack of cars breaking down pit lane. That's going to be tough there on entry. Double black flag. Triple black flag there. McGill, Bond, and Smith all picking up black flags on pit entry, no less, and that's going to kill their efforts. With that penalty, that's going to take them out of it.
Auburn is in shambles currently with that. All three of those Auburn machines leading that little group in, all three of them getting black flag penalties, and that's all but going to kill their hopes of winning tonight's race. And other than Landon Velicky right now, that is their only real shot now. As it looks like actually Ryan Smith in that 82 was unfazed, so now they have 2 out of the 5 cars who are going to be able to take a shot at the win tonight if everything goes right. And you can see on the left side of your screen on the timing tower that all of these drivers in the top 11 currently on lap 31 of their stint, trying to hold out here as much as they can in hopes of a caution to trap as many people a lap down. But now you can see, I believe, Nate Smith on pit road by himself, along with Andrew McGill coming back down to serve his black flag. So all that being said and done, now it's going to be the top 10 who are going to be sitting in this pack. And, you know, it looks like a couple of these drivers just trying to come in whenever they can, like Nate Smith here from Mississippi State. Just, he doesn't really have any support, and that's going to be detrimental to that 61.
Oh, that is going to be absolutely brutal. With nobody around you, there's no real path to recover from something like that. That's going to be incredibly tough. Darn near impossible to try and manage as, oh, look at the bump drafting with this top pack that are still out there. That was close with Lyman and Voigt. So close to seeing a stack 'em up wreckfest all through the turn. Thankfully, they kept it going in a straight line. That was not Voigt, though. I do apologize. That's a 27 or they're involved in that pack. Lap drivers getting involved in this and nearly ended in disaster. One thing about these next-gen cars is a little bit of bumper misalignment, and it can end in tears. We've already seen that play out here tonight. Drivers bumping a little bit misaligned, and you're going to see a group of race cars get turned into an unrecognizable pile of metal pulp.
Absolutely. And, you know, just all that being said and done as well, we were talking about Thomas Kunin, and that's Cade Corbin back there on that outside line. They're currently a lap down, and I think they're trying to maybe get their lap back and not have to worry about any sort of free pass to get back on the lead lap. And the only other driver in this little pack here that is in contention for the free pass is Roger Primo at the tail end of this pack. You see that green car at the very end. So those three trying to figure out who's going to get a free pass if a caution comes out. But all that being said and done, they're going to have to make that outside work if they want to try and get their lap back naturally. You can see now there's probably 2 packs that are about the same size grouping up here. You can see there's a pack further up from this lead lap pack that is just trying to figure it out, try to maybe get some speed. And all of this being said and done, those 2 on the outside lane doing a great job getting some momentum to try and get their lap back. Thomas Kunin from Missouri, Cade Corbin from Alabama, Huntsville, like a rocket ship right there. You can see right on the back bumper of that 27 is the 08. And right now that 27 of Thomas, or 23 of Thomas Kunin, apologies, is currently got his lap back, but he's going to still have to battle all the way through as he's going to drop to the lower line, leaving Cade Corbin out to dry.
And all throughout this race, we've had to talk about drivers making friends out there on track. Now they're going to have to play scab and kind of turn their friends into enemies. So nobody's going to want to be on the side of anybody come time for that checkered flag. And whether or not you can manage that well or not will decide whether you visit victory lane in round number 3 of this season. Still waiting to see these pit stops. Now, thus far here, the packs that we have seen break away from the field and come down pit lane more often than not, we have seen at least one driver pick up a black flag. Now, I'm going to pass this back off to you, Brad, with a question. Do you think when we see this front pack of cars come into the pits, do you think that streak is going to continue, or do you think that's going to be a bit of a change and everybody will get through their pit stops clean?
Yeah, I really doubt that we have everyone get through clean. Again, it's something that's overlooked, I think, by a lot of drivers. And, you know, it's something that I don't even think when you come to Daytona necessarily, you might think, even though we go 250 miles, we only have technically, you know, we only need to stop twice. So you think there might be 2 cautions in the different stints that might be able to grant you that free throw onto pit road to get to the end. But right now, if you're this lead pack, I think you got to start thinking, how do I get on pit road efficiently with the speed? Because that group that came in earlier, they have gotten a pack together. They are not losing any sorts of time. As Brendan Lyman and a bunch of the group come to, actually half of that front group come down pit road. Jake Cummings did not. Andrew Voigt, Jack Wilson, Tyler Skozen stay out, along with a couple lap drivers.
And 4 black flags just like that. Lyman, Ulrich, Saviano, and Kampfer all picking up a black flag there. I had a feeling, I had a hunch, if you would. Call me Nostradamus, call me whatever you want. The black flag's coming out in spades, as that was a 222 actually spinning. That was DeLong. He didn't pick up a black flag, but he certainly paid the price.
Scuff the tires nonetheless, and I don't think there's any hope of having to, you know, top it off and go. You could ride on board here with Brendan Lyman, just absolutely sent it into pit entry, trying to, you know, maximize the speed, but obviously got nowhere there, as the rest of that front group has now made it down pit road, and they seem to be the perfect group, at least on entry. They still have to get through pit road to make sure they don't get any black flags here, but you can see that top 4, Voigt, Skozen, Cummings, and Jack Wilson all got on pit road fine and dandy, but that 010 who came down pit road with that first group of cars, one of the few, really the only car out of that whole entire group that didn't either get spun or get a black flag. He's going to end up on the front of this group now, as he's provisionally going to lead. But right now, that car on the outside, is those Auburn teammates are not going to be on the lead lap, though, as he's getting passed by Edward Sanchez, Landon Velicki, and everyone else. Jake Cummings, you can see coming out of the pits now, and it is Calamity coming through turn 2.
Oh, they're defending out occasionally 3 wide. This is really, really stressy stuff. More drivers merging right in tow. This is going to be tight. Jake Cummings has been able to cycle out to the race lead with Velicki right in tow in P2. Now 13 laps being the difference between those racers and their stint, but we believe that no matter what the circumstances, unless we run well deep into it with green-white checkers, they're going to be golden to make it to the end. Only 1 attempt, so that is totally going to be fine for Velicki. So this is going to be a bare-knuckle fist fight come time for the end. Still worrying about those lap cars, though, as Jake Cummings dropping down. What's going on with that number 95 car? It looked like he had speed, and then all of a sudden sucked in a bit of sludge from the fuel tank, or what it looked like that car was powered with sand.
And that run from the field, Cummings did not put up too much of a fight in that 95 to try and stay in front of Landon Velicki and the rest of the crew. So now that's going to give the lead back to the 62 and 26 combo. You remember they were pushing each other along here earlier in the race, and they are back to it as Aaron Brown now has joined the scene. Those 3 have a little bit of chemistry, as you see some lap down cars coming down pit road now, including Wesley Shaw, Miguel Carrera, Aaron Ramon, and Lee Winters, who were really trying to stretch it to see if they could get any sort of caution to come out to go their way. But we stay green through this entire pit cycle now, so it is the 62 of Landon Velicki trying to keep the run going in that 62 from Auburn University. He's going to see if he can try and make this great season even better for Auburn, as he's going to try and make his way to the podium. But he's getting pushed by Edward Sanchez from Baruch and Aaron Brown. And even though, you know, you have chemistry, when it comes down to that last lap, everything's out the door. You're trying to get to that top step of the podium. And, you know, when you come down to it also, Ron, is there anything, do you know anybody, do you think, that wouldn't pass you up for the lead to win a race at Daytona?
I think Tony Stewart said right before the 2011 NASCAR Cup Series season finale in a press conference with himself and Carl Edwards that he would bump and run his mother for a championship. So in the third race of this very close and competitive season, everybody's going to try and seize the opportunity here. So really don't think that past partnerships or anything of the sort is going to hold up for naught. I think the last time I did a broadcast at Daytona, albeit it was on the road course, I had some teammates actually decide to battle each other come time for the end of that. So there's always something in the air when drivers sense an opportunity. Teammates don't mean anything. They're going to seize that spot, try and grab that race win. Hey, not getting chewed at by a team owner may be nice, but the taste of champagne is even nicer.
Well, now it's really came down to about 11 cars on the lead lap. There's a lot more going on here at this front side of the field with the last 20% of the race to go here tonight. The final 50 miles here in Daytona. But all that being said and done, this long green flag stint has really stretched out the field, and only a quarter of them currently in contention. You can see this long line of cars is trying to, keep themselves to get to that final lap and try to get something going. But before too long, we're not in the set, stages where things will get crazy, where you try to go from 30th to first in a matter of 3 laps. But if you're somebody like Ryan Arnold, Matt Gagnon, Jake Cummings now further in, the back part of this pack, you got to start thinking of a strategy and maybe communicating with your teammates, if you have any.
Yeah, having some teammates and having some people to kind of back you up is going to be nice. Now, when the gloves fully come off and everybody starts throwing haymakers at one another, it won't matter too much. But what you can do to set yourself up the best is just give yourself a chance. That's all you need at the end of one of these races. You need a chance. If you have a clean race car, if you're running up towards the front, if you have enough gas to make it to the end, all you need is a chance in plate racing. If you can seize the opportunity, if the chips fall that way, hey, who knows? Maybe you could walk out of this race with the crown. But Vlecki holding on to that top spot at the moment. We're settled single file for now, but with fuel not being too much of a concern come time for the end of this race, we're not going to see these racers do fuel saving for much longer. There will be a breakaway sooner rather than later, and when that happens, I am kind of scared to see what sort of pandemonium breaks out with it.
And you can see on the left side of your screen here, all 11 of these drivers are currently set in position to win tonight if everything stays green. That 0-10 of Jamie Placencia currently on that bottom line there. You can see in that white 0-10 on the bottom side of Auburn, those 3 Auburn cars who got the black flags but are still trying to make it work and try to at least shake up a little bit of the action here in the main pack. When you look further on back here from 12th on back, there's about an 8-car pack trying to, figure it out. And obviously with them having less cars involved, it's not going to be a winning battle for that second pack. So they're just going to try and keep their positions for now in case of a caution. But yeah, there's 11 cars still in contention for this whole thing. We got 16 laps to go here in the Daytona 250, and everything being said and done, I honestly, from my perspective and from the experience of the CIL and Daytona's past, there has been a very low rate of a green flag finish of more than 2 to 3 laps for the College Cup Series. So ultimately or not, I think a lot of these drivers are still expecting caution at some point.
Yeah, just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Now, as somebody who probably from his time in school for sure, as somebody who has trust issues, I'm always waiting for the extra shoe to drop in most things in life, generally speaking. So I can emphasize with the feeling quite a lot of just being there. It's like, okay, Something else has got to go on here. Either somebody's going to strike the catch fence, a UFO is going to crash into Lake Lloyd and flood the backstretch. Something's going to happen here soon that will turn this race completely on its head. When that happens, though, if you can think good on your feet, you'll be golden. So we keep an eye on these racers, thinking how it may go if we run clean and green straight to the end. But again, as you just alluded to a few moments ago, Brad, the chances of that happening at Daytona, no less, you can never say never.
Always in the back of your mind. Until that white flag waves, that's the only time you can actually think this is going to be the end of a Daytona race, it feels like. As you see, it's getting a little shaky up here in the front. It looks like James Bowman and that Embry-Riddle machine of Brian Ferwetta are going to jump up to the outside and try to make a little momentum going with 14 to go. Now they're getting some pushes from the 62 there coming through turns 2. That's actually the 82 of Ryan Smith with Jake Cummings involved, and Matt Gagnon currently trying to push that 95 from the University of New Hampshire. And you can see they're going to get a heck of a run on that outside line, enough to where Edward Sanchez is going to have to block the 18, and it's getting a little dicey up here at the front.
Yeah, 3 wide racing, drivers banging fenders, banging doors, and banging wheels. Look at this pack now as they head their way out of 3 and 4 through the tri-oval. Drivers blinking in and out as well. That's a 13 of Ryan Arnold briefly getting abducted by a UFO as he came across a stripe. That's not going to help ease tensions, not one bit at all. 13 to go. Lucky 13 laps left to go. Edward Sanchez is the one holding on to that top spot as look at this hornet's nest behind him.
This is when everybody, it's no hold bars, it seems like, for this top 11 now. 2 wide and even a little bit 3 wide action further on back. But nonetheless, James Bowman in the 18 from the University of Kentucky. He's going to try and make it work on that outside. This bottom lane has been the place to be, though, at least it seems like. But they got more cars on that outside line. They got a bigger head of steam coming out of 4. They're going to try and maybe use a side draft to try to keep that lower line back to them and slowly reel them in as they come through the tri-oval. You can see that 61 of Nate Smith is going to have to try and hold that inside line. Aaron Brown in the 16 jumps to the outside to try to take advantage.
We haven't really talked about him too much throughout this broadcast, but that 16 looking to peak at the right time as you got Nate Smith and James Bowman still around him as well. Sanchez throwing the nasty block. He gets booed up there. Now look at the 62 of Valecki. He's going to be the one punching the hole in the air on the bottom. Look at this pack of cars. Maybe to consider between now and the checkered flag. 12 laps left to go. That will become a factor if we keep it green to the end.
Edward Sanchez was trying to give a block to the 16 there, but was not clear. And that Eastern Shore machine on the outside, Brook on the inside, coming nose to nose into turn 1 as they're going to try and see if they can work. You see James Bowman giving a heck of a push to the 16 through turn 1 and 2. It looks like that Brook machine of Edward Sanchez got a little squirrely in 2, but he's going to keep it going, keep the momentum up as he's got, it looks like the, that is Landon Velicki right behind him, and right behind him Nate Smith also in that lower line, but the 16 of Aaron Brown still battling it out for this top spot. They are not letting anything go. This outside line has the momentum and is gonna stay here. They got all of the hope and all of the cars right now to try and make it work as we come to 10 to go.
10 laps left, 25 miles left here at Daytona, and Aaron Brown, the one punching that hole in the air, but this is still getting really dicey. We aren't 3 wide anymore, but these close calls get more and more terrifying every single time it takes place. I feel like we're running on borrowed time. This has been a smooth race here under the lights at Daytona. These racers have coped with the challenge brilliantly. Now, though, with 10 laps under that soon-to-be left to go here, one driver is going to push the limit a little bit too hard, and that's going to be when the real question is, when's it going to happen, where's it going to happen, and who's going to get collected in it? If it does happen, we still have to say if. I have seen Stranger Things. I don't even have a Netflix account.
And much like Stranger Things, is going to say Ryan Arnold did get abducted like from an alien, as you said, Ron, earlier. He blinked out for a little bit there, and that might be something for a lot of these drivers on the outside line to try and avoid the 13. You know, that right now, that is when you don't want somebody to blink. If you're trying to work with them, you know, you want to make sure that car is behind you at all times. And Yeah, hopefully this race has a better ending than you know, the Netflix series. So all that being said and done, you can see Aaron Brown and Edward Sanchez giving a lot of push around that lap traffic. It's causing a little bit of three-wide action further back in this pack, but everyone keeping it forward for now. No three-wide coming through 3 and 4. And all that being said and done, some more lap traffic is going to be at the helm for these lead lap drivers. And it's just going to cause more pandemonium as that outside line has pretty much lost all of its momentum that it had in a couple laps ago. It's pretty much decimated up to this point, and with only 8 laps to go, it's going to have to build real quick if James Bowman or anyone else is going to have a shot at this thing.
These drivers are going to have to do a lot with not a lot of time. Will they be able to make it work, though, is the question. Yeah, they're scrambling, and that's going to be the caution to reset everything.
The 010 of Jamie Placencia. That 010, that first race here in the UNOH College Cup Series, harded to the outside wall. You can see he had to take a tow back to pit road, and we'll see the cause for the reason. Oh, the 248 of Brian Ferwetta, it looked like got sent around, and that causes the whole thing to start there. That Embry-Riddle machine looks like it got a little bit unhappy and got ricocheted into the 010. This is a better view here coming through 1 and 2. They were locked in on that outside line. You can see James Bowman, we were talking about, leading the line. And it looks like Ryan Smith, just one bad push to that rear corner panel was enough to send that 248 right around into the 010, and a little bit of pinball action happening there.
Yeah, so taking a look at this replay. I said this a little bit earlier on, talking about the pushing and being a little bit out of line. That's a point where we do have to lift, because that was just so misaligned there. That was basically like trying to hammer bits of a jigsaw together. We'll take a look at this a little bit zoomed in and follow this 248. There you can see misalign of the bumpers. Really nothing that the 248 could have done there.
Yeah, got a little shifty, and all that being said and done, Ryan Smith got into the backside of the 248 and got him sent right around. So we'll see if that 82 is going to have to go back to the end of the field here and remotely remove his chances of winning tonight. But while that does give an opportunity for a lot of those drivers outside the top 10 a chance to get back into the swing of things and maybe make this more chaotic to end it all, including Thomas Coonan and Cade Corbin. When you're looking up at the front, Aaron Brown, Edward Sanchez, and Landon Veliky, they were trading blows, trying to trade that pretty much all the spots on the podium. And still, nonetheless, it doesn't seem like they're going to have to worry about too much for now, as they're going to have to figure it out. You know, they have a little bit of chemistry here, obviously, with the last 20 laps or so. As you can see, a bunch of drivers coming down pit road to repair some damages, including Reese Bayhem, Logan Smith, and Alex Jones. But after everything's said and done, that's going to bring all of those lead lap cars together here. And we currently have, after Aaron Ramon gets back around, 22 cars on the lead lap. So, you know, Ron, if you're in the circumstance of somebody in that end of the lead lap, such as Aaron Ramon, Austin DeLong, Madison Ulrich, Josh Camphor, to name a couple, what do you think is going through their mind right now to try and not only scavenge a good result, but potentially try to get up to the front with only 4 laps to go?
You know, maybe it's just me and the fact that many people have said that I have the brain and mindset and mentality of about an 85-year-old man. If it were me, though, I would just be happy running a little bit farther behind and just stay clean at the end of this race with a late race restart. We're not in green-white checkered territory here. I don't believe we will be there, although we will not have a lot of racing action left to go in regulation. It's going to get frenetic out there. It's going to get really crazy. If we see any more incidents like that and you start at the back of the lead lap cars on this restart, you could very easily walk away with the top 10. I mean, it's something that played out yesterday during the Daytona 500, and it's something that these racers could very easily do here tonight. That's what I would want to do personally. Don't have major aspirations of grandeur. Just keep your nose to the grindstone, manage what you can manage behind the wheel of your own race car, and let the chips fall into your lap.
Definitely like that thought process. And there are drivers that I believe we saw Kyle Busch in a couple, in circumstances where, they will just dodge the lead pack in the closing laps because they know they are just going to end up in something crazy if they're further on back. So the safer approach is definitely a good thought process if you're trying to get a good points day out of Daytona, because it is a wild card of a race when it comes to looking at the season, when the full season is, like every race matters in a season for the standings. So as we stack them back up 2 by 2 throughout the field in the front row, again, that is Aaron Brown, Eastern Shore Community College, with Edwards Sanchez from Baruch College. We have 22 cars on the lead lap, potentially able to win here tonight. And we still have a green-white checkered in our back pocket. So with 4 to go here, if that does become the case, then we'll worry about that later. But for now, a lot of these drivers, if you're in the top 22, gonna have to try and figure out where you want to get to within only 4 laps worth of time. But further on back, Landon Belicky, Nate Smith, Jake Cummings, Ryan Arnold, James Bowman, Matt Gagnon, Brian Ferwetta, Thomas Coonan round out your top 10. And then you can see on the list on your left for the other drivers that are currently on the lead lap, back to Madison Ulrich. And then those last 2 cars on the lead lap are Aaron Ramon, who got the free pass, and Austin DeLong is right there. So I believe it is Robbie Hotchkiss potentially there. All that being said and done, though, coming to 4 laps to go, Aaron Brown, that Eastern Shore Community College machine, he has been friendly with Edward Sanchez and Landon Belicky so far in this race, but is that friendship gonna last? The pace car has its lights out as they come to turn 4. A lot of drivers trying to figure out who and where are they going to get their ticket punched to try and finish on the top step of the podium here tonight for the Daytona 250 presented by the NAPA Longland Corporation. Pace car throws that car down pit road. Aaron Brown brings everyone to the restart zone, and we are green yet again here in Daytona Beach.
Looking to break away. Look at the drivers up on the top side of both of these lanes. Looks like there's some gaps starting to form that could play dividends come time for the end. Look at that. That is a huge margin for some of these top competitors.
And with only 3 laps to go, everyone's going to have to try and make it work. You can see the top 6 are virtually bumper to bumper coming down the backstretch. Got a little squirrely. Thought Brian Ferwood was going to end up in a very similar situation, except off the front of Nate Smith. But everyone keeping it at play. Everyone keeping it off each other at the right spots. And as we come out of turn 4, Edward Sanchez looks to the outside. He's going to make a run on an outside with Landon Belicky pushing him to the lead. That outside line has the help. And now that Baruch machine is going to push to the inside. As now Landon Belicky from Auburn is going to try and run it outside with James Bowman from Kentucky. Some SEC opponents right now, some rivals, but nonetheless trying to help each other, try to get the speed through turns 1, 2. Josh Camper further back in the field.
Yeah, trouble farther behind. Drivers getting spun up into the fence. They're going to stack them up huge, heading off through 1 and 2 onto the super stretch. And I think that will put us under yellow once more with drivers stopped above the apron. And I think that may very well send us into green-white checker territory. Yes, it does 3 laps short of regulation. 1 green-white checkered attempt allotted. So if they can't make it work here, that'll be the end. And taking a look at that incident, stacking up, that's the problem with the momentum kind of stalling out in front. Nowhere to run or hide for the racers behind. No opportunity to stretch out their legs.
And there might have been a late clear call for the 141. And just, that car snapped sideways after taking the initial hit. And that alumni from Kansas State was having a good run so far, and it collected a bunch of others who were trying to figure it out in that mid to further back part of the lead lap. You can see Madison Ulrich was trying to look to the inside in the 48, and that just caused a calamity. Austin DeLong, along with that Vincenz Massey, the Lee Winters, and it looks like Miguel Carrera also involved, the 98 also getting tangled up in that, and you can see some drivers further on back able to break it out and make sure they didn't get completely annihilated during that whole ordeal. Austin DeLong also was fast all night, and unfortunately that 222 is going to have a lot of damage when it matters most, and going to virtually end the end of his night. And as we said before, we have a green-white checkered, as there's only one attempt here in the UNOH College Cup Series. So this is it. No matter what happens, if another caution happens before the white flag comes out, or even during the white flag lap, if applicable, then that will result in the checkered flag. If the white flag is taken, the race will finish under green. No matter what, in real life, it does happen sometimes, but here in the UNOH College Cup Series, it will end under green no matter what once that white flag is taken. So, everything being considered here, the top three shook up a little bit there from that restart, but, you know, Ron, when all things said and done, you know, we came to this green-white checkered, and, you know, this is very, very regular for a lot of these drivers when they come to a restrictor plate track, being Daytona or Talladega. What are you expecting to see here, or where are you expecting to see the winner come from?
Oh, well, I will say what I am expecting. So I allude to this quite a lot on the air. I am a proud son of the city of Philadelphia. I have lived here for all 21 years that I've been on planet Earth. And whenever some of our sports teams do well, it doesn't matter whether it's our football teams, our hockey teams, although that hasn't happened since the Gerald Ford administration, baseball, basketball, less so on soccer. But whenever our four major sports teams do well, this city breaks out into absolute pandemonium. People climbing up the light poles, setting City Hall on fire. It's madness here in the city of Philadelphia. Now, we're not going to see people climbing onto light poles, because you would have to... I'm not sure a race car would be able to do that. I'm not sure if you can get out of the cars on iRacing. Who knows? Stay tuned for Season 1 of 2028 for the climbing up the greased light poles update to come into effect. But no, I'm expecting the same sort of level of chaos that I see in the city of Philadelphia whenever the Eagles win a game. This is going to be madness. Fires are going to be set. We're going to throw beer cans at people. This is going to be a wild end to this race. And frankly, anybody who has a even close look, like if they can see the leader come time for this restart, they probably have a good shot to win.
Absolutely. And I don't think I said this about myself, but me being from Pittsburgh, I think we are just established a rivalry in the boost somehow, for at least the state of Pennsylvania nonetheless. But all that being said and done, I know that Philadelphia can get a little crazy no matter if they win or lose. It's just depending if, you know, pretty much if it's a happy, you know, burning down, or a happy climbing of the pole, or an unhappy climbing of said street lights. So in Pittsburgh, we don't do anything crazy like that. So in person, I can't say I can see any sort of calamity like that. But nonetheless, I agree with you 100%. I think that a lot of these drivers are just going to do whatever they can do to get to a good spot at the end of this race, no matter what, if it's under the green flag lap or white flag lap. They're trying to set themselves up to get on the podium, and obviously on top of that timing table, and no one else is sitting in a better spot than Edward Sanchez, who has been up at the front with the two other, you could call them technically the Three Stooges right now in Daytona, where Edward Sanchez, Landon Veliky, and Aaron Brown all seem to have just been names we have said at least 30-40 times here tonight. They've been at the front, they've been doing their best and doing a great job at it and keeping up at the front. And when you look further on back, James Bowman, Jake Cummings, Nate Smith, Brian Ferretta, Ryan Arnold, Cade Corbin, Matt Gagnon, they were part of that group that was in that front little pack before the two cautions ago. So all those drivers still in the contention, but Thomas Kunin and a lot of those drivers further on back on the lead lap are going to try and, you know, pull whatever they can, even if it's a 3-wide move, trying to just send it through an accident to get some free spots on the white flag lap. No matter what, I think we're going to see everyone push it to the limit and try to do what they can to get a great result out of Daytona, because again, it is a wild card on the schedule, and if you can get an above average finish, that is all you can ask for, and especially if that car is not going to be total at the end of it. So we have that Baruch machine of Edward Sanchez in the 26, the 62 of Landon Veliky from Auburn, trying to keep Auburn's hot start to season 14 going. And all that being said and done, that is not a guarantee, as there's a lot of hungry drivers trying to get back up to the front here. Pace car as it's lights out here. And this green-white checkered is brought to you by the NAPA Longland Corporation. For your car, truck, SUV, and heavy-duty needs, visit NAPA and get the NAPA know-how. And Edward Sanchez brings us back to the restart zone, and we are green here in Daytona again.
But I think the bottom side may have the run for now, even though the top side is building the momentum. It just looks broken up there as it's a bit stagnant on the bottom, I gotta say. Neither side really having good rolling.
Not a good start at all for that bottom lane. Landon Velicki was able to push enough to where he's able to clear that bottom lane along with James Bowman. Those two can push to the bottom of one, and James Bowman does that just by inches, able to get in front of the 26. And now he's going to lead that lower line that's way more together, like you noted before, Ron. They are pushing their way through turns 3 and 4. That Kentucky Wildcat machine is now getting pushed all the way through 3 and 4, about 4 car lengths out in front of that outside pack as we come to the white flag here at Daytona.
Yeah, and that top side completely stalling out. I thought it was theirs for the taking. Neither side got off to a good restart, by the white flag in the air, presented by the NAPA Longland Corporation. And here we go. This is going to get intense. This is going to get froggy. Who's going to pull out of lane and hop off that lily pad first?
James Bowman's doing his best to try to block that outside line. Oh, contact! Edward Sanchez still going. Bowman around, he's tabling down the table, and now Edward Sanchez, oh, Brian Ferretta around, Jake Cummings is also there. Where did Anthony Savignano come from? He's in that Kentucky State, or Kansas State machine, using that outside line to try and track down the 26, the Baruch machine. He's all got 2 lines, but it's not much enough. Edward Sanchez has the inside line, and he is clear, and he's gonna win the Daytona 250.
And we were expecting madness, and madness, we got a big crash heading down the super stretch on that white flag lap, but Sanchez withstanding the pressure and all the craziness behind him. Want to give some love to Anthony Saviano, was able to jump into second by the checkered flag. That is a wild way for his race to end. What a way to bring this race to a conclusion. We were expecting drama, and drama we got.
Edward Sanchez, somebody who has been very good at the restrictor plate races from Baruch, doing a great job, was fast all night, able to get the deal done. As you see coming down the backstretch, James Bowman was trying to keep clear of the 26, and that sent him right around into a lot of the traffic. And there was some further calamity from the result of that, just a domino effect. You could see some drivers just trying to get some free positions, driving on by the 18.
Looking at these replays to see the craziness on that last lap. This is when things really started to get hectic. There you can see the contact. Worst spot to slide off on both angles. And look at the Auburn driver just getting wiped out there. Pretty bad blocks there towards the end of it, and a little bit of desperation creeping out, if we are being completely honest. Drivers trying to seize the opportunity to win here under the lights at Daytona, and things going awry. Thankfully, nobody else was majorly collected. So drivers spinning off 3 and 4, getting to see the tail end of that. Saviano, that 99 car, could have had a very good shot to win. I think he was, golly, I just saw a massive hit there in the back of shot. Rosel's focusing on the leaders. I could see somebody get clobbered.
This is Edward Sanchez's second win here in the UNOH College Cup Series. Last time he won was at a completely different track at Bristol, so a little bit of a difference for the 26. So while this is all going on, and you can see the replay of the final laps, we'd like to welcome in the HTRL viewers, as Michael Thorpe Jr. won at New Hampshire Motor Speedway with a great race here tonight. You missed out on 250 laps here of some very, very interesting, racing nonetheless. There was a great green flag run in the middle of the race, and as everyone is getting set up in the interview waiting room, we actually are able to grab our, if we're good to go, I think we are able to grab Edward Sanchez here, our top step of the podium from Baruch. And Edward, you got a copy?
Hello, hello.
Well, To say you couldn't have won in less dramatic fashion would be an understatement. I think you had a, before we go into the final piece of that race and how everything unfolded, you were pretty much at the front of this field, it seemed like, after the first 10 laps. We've seen you be great at restrictor plate races. Was that your expectation here tonight, to stay at the front and ultimately be at the top of the podium?
I gotta say 100%, of course, that's a mentality, if you want to win, you want to win. And real ones know last year at the Daytona 250, I came up short. I finished second place to Kelton Quick, and I was leading that race too. But regardless, it was all a team effort. I got a shout out to Cade Corbin, Thomas Coonan, Aaron Brown, Landon Velicky, and all the other folks that was with us. James Bowman, who else? I'm trying to... Man, we had at least 5+ guys working together that we wanted to really, really put the pressure on these guys. As you saw, I was really the pusher for most of the race. But I maintained dominance. Like, that's what I like to be. I like to be the pusher. I don't really like to lead. As you can tell, I like to lead on the final lap. Up until the final lap out of turn 2. That's when I made my move on James. But no, it was really all a team effort, and I'm just super, super proud of working with others and just making the strategy work. As you guys saw, just maybe it's the next question y'all have, but all I will say is that that is the mentality that I went in, was that, I am going to dominate and I'm going to win, because that is absolutely what I do at these super speedways. And hey, last night I won the Daytona 500 NIS fixed split 3, so it kind of gave me a little bit confidence boosted for tonight.
Hey, any practice is great practice. And all that being said, also coming to the white flag, and we were watching you battle it down the backstretch with James Bowman, and from there, it just seemed like once you got past the 18, you had to do a lot of rear view racing. Take us through your mindset and everything you were feeling through the last set of corners.
So going into turns 1 and 2, Aaron and we were pinned. I had enough oil temperature. I had 214 oil. So because of that, I had just enough to make it there. I could stay pinned behind it. But of course, why am I going to push the guy all the way around to the end? Like, come on, I got to win the race, right? So off of turn 2, I told Aaron, get ready, 3, 2, 1. That's when I made the move to the outside. Now, I was being as nice as I could to James here. I was already to his outside, but he kept pushing it, and he pushed me into the wall, which wasn't cool. But luckily, he barely tapped me, but unfortunately, that gave damage to Aaron, so I lost Aaron's help. After that, that's when I believe that was Brian, the 248, and Jake coming down. So what I did was I'm going to be real. I went down to the yellow to give Jake the draft, and I kind of had a feeling, well, it wasn't me who did it, but the 248 just followed my bumper. He followed me down to the bottom, but Jake was there. So they made contact, so that gave me a little bit more breathing room. So when the 248 spun around Jake lost momentum. That's when I realized, all right, crap. So now I went back up top, then I went back down between 3 and 4, as you saw. I was riding the yellow because I saw Jake needed a little bit of a bump draft because he was going to get side drafted by the 99. That's when I saw Jake kind of got momentum, but I think at this point, I might have maybe thought about it differently. I gave the bump draft a little bit too much to the 99. I should have came down a lot sooner to give Jake the bump draft so he can side draft the 99. So I was trying to do like an Austin Hill, like covering both lanes, but I kind of miscalculated. So in that point, what I did was I turned down last minute to act like I was going to go bottom, but then last minute, of course, I jerked the car up. I was there. I was able to put half a bumper on the 99. And I spoke to him in an interview room, and we're all good. It was all hard racing, but I was able to kind of shift my car and block him just perfectly to stop his momentum, which in turn part, of course, he hit the wall. He lost momentum. So from there on, I just held the yellow, went as low as I could. I saw Caden took his inside, and right there at the line, I almost got spun by the 99, but luckily I got through, and that's how I did it, folks. That's how you win a Daytona 250 on the final lap.
Now, I feel like it might be an understatement to say you've won like the most 2 diverse tracks in the UNOH College Cup Series, being Bristol and now Daytona. Going, between those 2 mediums to now like some tracks that are 1.5 to 2 milers coming up. How does this momentum feed into your mentality going through the rest of the season?
Same motivation. I mean, look, hey, you guys can check my track record. I have finished runner-up so many times on intermediates. I feel like I finished second place around, I think, 5 or 6 times, maybe 7. But around there, it's like I have been there. It's just that every single time, it's just I couldn't finish it. And so yeah, I won at Bristol. People then called me the short track merchant because I couldn't get a win on the super speedway for my first CIL UNOH career. So I won at Bristol. Now I finally won at Daytona. So Unc still got it. I got back the super speedway merchant title. But no, I really do want to win on intermediate. And honestly, looking ahead at the schedule, I got a good shot. I finished I finished P8 in Charlotte, P11 last week, and this week first place. So right now I've been just on a roll here, and I'm just gonna keep that momentum.
And checking the stats here, this is your 13th top 5 finish here in your CIL career. So congratulations again, Edward. But before we let you go and celebrate, is there anyone you'd like to shout out?
Oh man, I got the whole notes here on my phone, so let me pick that up. Nah, I'm joking. All right. Shout out to Baruch ESA. Shout out to President Gabe. President Gabe, I got the win I said I was gonna get this year. So shout out to President Gabe. Shout out to marketing. Shout out to Alyssa. Thank you so much for always putting to put my graphics in the Discord announcements for my school esports club to root me on. So shout out to them for giving me such a quick Chevrolet tonight in the 26 Baruch ESA. Shout out to the teammates, as I said, Aaron, Thomas, Cade, Landon, James, everyone that worked with us. It was amazing to the end. Shout out to the producers. Shout out to you guys. Thank you, Green Flag TV. Now, as both as a driver and as a social media admin of the league, you guys have been doing wonders. So thank you guys so much for putting on this spectacular show for all the fans at home to watch on YouTube and everywhere. Shout out to my parents. Shout out to my dad, who keep complaining that I was yelling a little bit too loud in the end, but I did tell him I won the race, so it was worth it. Shout out to my brother Matthew. He's the one that got me into sim racing in the first place. And shout out to my wonderful girlfriend Liz. Mwah, te quiero. I love you so much. And now I'm gonna get a nice mango ice cream to celebrate the win. And also shout out to Haru. Never give up, folks. Never give up. And yeah, so on to next week. And yeah, honestly, that was the most fun I've had and the most dominant performance I could have on a super speedway.
Well, thanks for joining us up here in the booth, Edward. Go enjoy that ice cream and the rest of your night, and we will see you here next Monday night.
Yeah, I won the Daytona 250! Ah! Take care. Have a good one, folks.
You as well, and that was your winner, Edward Sanchez from Baruch College. I'm going to throw the mic over here to Ron, as he's going to be talking to our second place finisher, Anthony Savignano from Kansas State.
Yeah, and Anthony Salviano now joining us here in the broadcast booth. Anthony, welcome in. P2 for you at the end of this race here at Daytona. How was it out there?
Well, fellas, that was I hope as entertaining from the booth as it was from the driver's seat.
Oh, it definitely was.
Nuts through and through. It was quite interesting because most of the time I want to say we were single file, but then again, there was just no fuel saving whatsoever. So the wick was always turned up the whole time. It was awesome fun. I want to thank my teammate, Josh Comfer, for pushing me around that racetrack for however 248 miles or however long that was until the end. But yeah, that was a great race, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a bit more stressy behind the wheel than it was for us in the broadcast booth, but it was certainly entertaining for us here in the in the announcement booth. But next time out, we're gonna be running at Kansas, kind of swapping ends of the NASCAR spectrum. Kansas Speedway in 1 week's time. What are your thoughts out in there?
Yeah, Kansas is my home track, so I do enjoy it. I love the way it races, the multi-groove. It's going to be another very interesting race to call. There will always be 3 or 4 cars within a second of each other. However, my tire saving on mile and a half is not the best, as I displayed at Rockingham last week. It was top 3 the entire race. I'd pushed for 4 laps and then finished 11th because of those 4 laps. So I got to figure out how to stay a little bit more patient. But I'm excited for Kansas. I think it's a great track, and I think with these great drivers, it'll pair very well.
Yeah, so with home field advantage, we'll look forward to seeing what you can do there next time out, Anthony. But before we let you go and celebrate this P2, we'll let you give any thank yous or shout outs.
Yeah, like I said again, I want to shout out Josh Comfer, the teammate. Appreciate you for hot dogging it around there with me for however long we were out there until you got wrecked. But want to thank Kansas State Esports. Glad to support the university, represent the university, and it's always good to have that purple and white out front. And I hope to stay there for the rest of the year.
Well, it's been a darn good start to your time here in the Collegiate League off the back of that performance last time out at the Rock and tonight here at Daytona. Anthony, thank you for joining us in the booth, and we'll see you next time out at Kansas.
Right on. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'm here to make a splash. Let's have some fun. See you next
Heck
week.
yeah. We'll see you next week, man. That right there was Anthony Salviano joining us here in the booth. And Brad, I'll pass the mic back off to you.
We're going to be joined here by our last finisher on the podium here tonight. It is the 08 of Cade Corbin from the University of Alabama, Huntsville. And Cade, I believe this is your first time on the podium, correct, in the College Cup Series?
I'm finally on the other side of the microphone, dude. I can't believe it. I never thought it was going to happen, but we just kept working at it. Yeah, first podium. And now that I've got one, I guess I can just call it a career and retire to the booth and come up here and yap with you guys. I guess that's the next step.
Seems like a good place. Nonetheless, you had an interesting path to get to the podium comparative to the other top two on the podium here. Can you take us through your night real quickly and tell us, how everything got played along with those green flag stops?
Yeah, I had an EOL to start the race, qualified really well, and then had an EOL because that's how it just goes. But then knew from the beginning that it was going to be a race of being patient. I also had Aaron with me, Aaron Cyrus, at UAH. He's kind of our next up and comer guy. It used to be me. I was working with Ryan Whitlock. Ryan was our guy who got me into the CIL, and now I'm the old guy, and we got Aaron coming up here. But I was working with him, and so I was doing what I was preaching, being patient, and then eventually, I was working really well. Edward, Aaron, Thomas, Landon. I know I'm going to forget somebody. James. I think Brian was kind of in on it as well. We all had a little squad, and we green flag pitted, and I put it in the grass coming to pit road, looking like Jimmy Johnson on Sunday. But then, we just stayed in it, and I knew when I was pushing Thomas there in that second pack, we were probably going to get another yellow, and so we just maintained the track position, got the restart. And then on the last lap, it was full send, man. I didn't lift until I'm pretty sure I still had my foot on the gas when I was standing on my roof there at the apron of turn one, dude. I was upside down, but heck of a race, and it was a lot of fun.
Now, taking this momentum you got from Daytona, we got a collection of tracks coming up in the schedule. Any of them that you're eyeing up or feeling great about, thinking that maybe you can take that top step of the podium at even?
I mean, we were fourth at Chicago. Kansas and Kentucky are similar, so we're going to be good up there. New Atlanta, if we get that same group of guys together, we're going to play the strategy right. We won Talladega last year. We had Mav Davis in our group, and he went out and won the thing. So New Atlanta is going to be cool. Legacy Atlanta is going to be a fun adventure. I got to say, the person who put this schedule together has got to be just an incredible admin and is doing a great job with the league. So I'll pat myself on the back for that one. But that being said, I mean, the league raced really, really well tonight. I'm glad we got green flag stops. I'm glad we got an exciting finish, and I'm really happy that everybody who was in the race could join the league and come out and be with us. And I'll get my shout outs here to get you guys wrapped up. But we got to shout out UAH, Charger Motorsports, all the guys who work with us, Aaron and Connor, Jordan, Ryan, everybody on the virtual team. We got to thank our sponsors. I got to do it. I get to thank the sponsors. We got Mathnasium and B2 Motorsports, which is a local motorsports shop up here in Huntsville that gives us a lot of opportunities to work on hands-on stuff. And of course, I'll shout out grandparents. They like to watch these races. My parents, everybody. I have this duck. This was the first race with the duck. Watching, so the duck brought me good luck, and it was a lot of fun. So thank you all, and good night.
Thanks for joining us up here in the booth, Cade, and I hope to talk to you here soon, maybe next week at Kansas.
Absolutely, I'll be in Victory Lane at Kansas. Don't you worry, Brad.
Alrighty, well, I'll keep you to that. We'll see if Cade joins us next week here in that number one position.
Hey, don't commentary curse. You commentary curse me. It's gonna be over, dog. You're gonna be fired.
Oh, no. Well, yeah, I guess you are the director. I probably shouldn't be saying too much here. But
yeah, you be careful.
Everything being said here, that again was Cade Corbin from the University of Alabama, Huntsville, finishing on the final step of the podium. And we will take a quick look at the overall results here from Daytona. And quickly going through, Edward Sanchez, Anthony Savignano, and Cade Corbin make up your podium. Behind that, you could see that Thomas Kuhn, Jake Cummings, Madison Ulrich, Jack Wilson, Aaron Brown, Matt Gagnon, and Ryan Smith make up your top 10.
Yeah, and then looking through the rest of the field, a lot of drivers running into difficulties throughout this race, Brad. But overall, gotta say, Daytona always a bit of a venture off into the unknown, even though it is a very well-known quantity of a racetrack. Drivers unknown about each other and always a little bit unnervy when push comes to shove out there on the circuit. But I think those competitors dealt with the challenge brilliantly, and what a race that we saw here tonight.
Absolutely. As we scroll through the rest of our results here tonight, couldn't have asked for a really anything less than a Daytona finish here for the Daytona 250 presented by the NAPA Longland Corporation. And for the NAPA Longland Corporation, for your car, truck, SUV, and heavy-duty needs, visit NAPA and get the NAPA know-how along with UNOH, who has been our season-long sponsor. Want to thank them and say, looking to land a career in racing, begin your education at the University of Start It All. UNOH works with some of the nation's premier race teams and gives students the hands-on experience needed to launch their careers. Turn your passion into a career at www.unoh.edu. Again, that's www.unoh.edu. And if you can't wait until next week for some more Green Flag TV action along with overall CIL action, well, don't you worry. Next week we go to Kansas Speedway, but before that, you got the Mid-Atlantic Racing Series at Homestead Miami Speedway, along with Aspire at Road America tomorrow. And then you got Cyber at Daytona International Speedway. And then after that, it is the OMSRL at Pocono Raceway. On Wednesday, you got a triple header of the Premier Sim Racing League at Echo Park Speedway. And then you can join us for the Sports Car Series at the Fuji International Speedway. And then it is ending all out with the Beer League at the Red Bull Ring. And then also with that in the CIL, we have the Formula Series that runs the Indianapolis Road Course on Thursday. Green Flag drops at 9 p.m. And before we go, Ron, anything you'd like to say to drop us out of tonight's coverage?
Daytona doing Daytona things, drivers leaving, probably hoping to never return, but overall pretty exciting way to spend the night, and hopefully all the viewers can agree with that.
Well, we had a chaotic race here tonight, but season 14 has just started up. We just got through a quarter of the season, but we got more coming up next week at Kansas. So I want to thank everyone out there for joining us here tonight to watch tonight's crazy action here in Daytona, and hope you all stay tuned in to the social media pages along with Green Flag TV. I want to thank the entire staff behind the scenes, Howie Burrows, and alongside me and Ron Mons. And all that being considered, we'll see you next week for some more UNOH College Cup Series action. Have a good night, everyone.
Looking for a college where you can learn by doing? The University of Northwestern Ohio puts the wrench in your hand and your future in motion.
I would recommend UNOH to anybody who wants to excel in this industry.
With industry connections, cutting-edge equipment, and programs in automotive, diesel, high performance, robotics, and more, this is education that works.
You will come to this school and you will leave 10 times what you were when you came here.
Apply now